Please be seated, colleagues. Good morning, colleagues. Welcome to the extraordinary meeting of Borough Council. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Welcome to those members of the public in the public gallery and those watching from home. If any members of the public or press would like to record proceedings themselves, please do so from the public gallery, without interfering with the business of today's meeting. If the fire alarm sounds, can those sitting in the public gallery exit through the doors behind them, and those sitting in the council chamber leave the room by the doors behind me, and all make your way to the front of the town hall, please. To limit disturbances, please ensure mobile phones and other electronic devices are switched off or are on silent during the meeting. Any member who wishes to speak on any of the agenda items should use the microphones available, please. This extraordinary meeting of council today will deal only with the business that is set out on the summons. Finally, I would remind all members of Council Procedure Rule 34. Any councillor who speaks will not accuse anyone, member, officer, or otherwise, of improper motives or use offensive expressions or unparliamentary language, and must demonstrate compliance with the council proud values and the members' code of conduct at all times. Colleagues, I will not tolerate unacceptable behaviour, and so please consider this your first and final warning. Apologies. I have received apologies from Councillor Proudlock, Councillor Leask and Councillor Ellison. Are members aware of any further apologies? Colleagues? No, thank you. The first item of business is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to make a declaration before we move on to the next item of business? Colleagues are reminded that if you have a disclosable pecuniary interest in the item of business which prevents you from participating in the debate and any vote, you will need to leave the chamber. The next item of business, and only item of business today, is to consider a report of the Director of Place Strategy on the South Tyneside local plan. Sorry? Are there points of order on procedural?
With some procedure
Yes.
right now, so I can see what that was.
Yes. What is the procedural, councillor? It has to be being followed right now.
Why is the microphone's not working? Microphone's not working?
Your microphone's not working.
Right, so the point of order. The point of order of the Constitution there, Madam Mayor. Page 197. Paragraph 34.1, and I've done this at a few meetings,
Yeah.
right? And it's titled "Standing to Speak," right? And it's getting to the point where there's only 1 out of 10 standing up and here and giving you the respect that the Constitution says you should. And I understand certain people cannot do the standing up, but it's getting too often now, and the respect looks absolutely terrible. in person and on camera. So they've got to, please repeat to them, they've got to get on their feet to show you respect under section 34.
Thank
Right.
you, councillor.
And the other point is, on page 168 of the Constitution, section 3.3, it states the chief executive Month officer may reject business set out in the request or resolution or requisition for an extraordinary council meeting on the following grounds. A, it's potentially vexatious or frivolous. B, it's substantially the same as a motion which has been put at a meeting in the council in the past 12 months. And the final one, Madam Mayor, if it is in some other way respect considered to be out of order, illegal, irregular, or improper. I cannot understand why we are here today having another vote on something that was taken 6 months ago. Why? You know, people's got work, they've got things to do. The decision was made in here, Madam Mayor, and there in the Constitution is a reason why this shouldn't be getting held today. Can I get an explanation why in less than 6 months we're back again, please? Thank you very much.
The auditor officer, please.
Members, I think you've all received an explanation before now, and apologies if you missed it, Councillor Robertson. I think a request was made that complied with the relevant council procedure rules. So there was 5 elected members that asked for an extraordinary council meeting to be made. And on the fact that there was an item that has come back, council procedure rule 13.2 is that it's within that period if 12 elected members sign that notice to the mayor to ask that that happens. Councillor Oliver,
Councillor Oliver, please, can you let the monitoring officer finish, please?
So that notice was sent to the mayor considered the notice and agreed that the meeting happened today.
Yes. Can I just answer as well, councillor? Can I just say that I was very confident that we had followed all of the proper procedure. Otherwise, I can assure members and the public gallery we would not be sitting here today if there'd been the slightest doubt that this was not a legal and proper meeting. Yes, you can, councillor.
Thank you very much for your patience, Madam Mayor. I get all that, but it cannot be right if someone gets voted down in this chamber less than 6 months later, we'll come back, and especially when people got to take time off work and the public's got to come in again. They've already been in. We either vote for something and it stands, or we'll keep on coming back till the right answer comes. That cannot be right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've listened to that. I don't understand most of it. Aren't we here to represent the people? This is not what the people want. The people
Councillor Oliver,
us.
I'm so sorry, but that is not a point of order and it's not relevant. Can you sit down, please?
What's relevant to the
Thank
residents?
you.
It's definitely relevant.
Yes, it can be. I'm being reminded that, yes, part of the debate, you can make those remarks, but not when it's a point of order, as Councillor Robertson has done. Okay? Right, we shall move on then. Thank you. So I will ask Councillor Margaret Melling, Lead Member for Economic Growth and Transport, to present her report. Councillor Melling.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We're all here today because we want our residents to prosper and to live in a safe and pleasant environment. We want them to live in modern homes, close to the facilities they need, such as schools, healthcare, and shops. Even perhaps close to the place they work, or at least with good transport links to their job. We are obliged by the government to produce a local plan covering these vital aspects of modern life. It is now urgent since there has recently been published a new NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework, imposing 623 new houses per annum rather than the 309 previously demanded. These will require an additional 160 or perhaps up to 200 hectares of land. Last September, the plan came to you for approval, And unfortunately, and by the slimmest of majorities, this council decided not to do so, claiming the plan was unsustainable. This is not the case. There are three elements to sustainability: environmental, economic, and social. I believe the plan demonstrates an excellent balance between the three. It has sought to maximise our suitable brownfield sites and to limit the amount of greenbelt we need. And it has been through the statutory consultation exercises. The proposals are sound in as much as they are justified and proportionate. They are viable, deliverable, and comply with national policy. Housing is now more of a priority than it has ever been, and government has committed to building 1.5 million homes. Excuse me. The question today is how much of a part we play. Do we proceed with a plan based on just over 300 units a year? Or do we want to start again and submit a new plan by December 2026 with an extra 5,300 houses over the plan period, which will undoubtedly use more greenbelt land? We may eventually have to accept an increase in our housing targets, but if we can submit this plan before the 12th of March, we will achieve a breathing space of possibly up to 5 years. And a lot can happen in 5 years. If we don't submit on time, such is the gap between our current housing requirement and the much increased figures suggested in the new NPPF, we would effectively have to restart the plan and explain to our residents why. I also want to remind members that the local plan is about more than housing numbers. The policies contained in the local plan seek to ensure that South Tyneside can continue to support economic growth by protecting our employment areas, supporting the regeneration of our town centres, and protecting our green spaces and most valuable natural and historic environments. The plan also seeks to ensure that any development proposed in the borough will be sustainable, well-designed, and addresses the infrastructure needs. Failure to proceed with submission would lead to significant delays in the introduction of a local plan for South Tyneside. This would expose us to further risk around speculative development, would make it harder to protect the sites that are valued, and make adequate delivery of appropriate infrastructure harder. It could significantly increase the likelihood of government intervention and the potential loss of some degree of control over plan making and decision making in the borough. It's time we brought some certainty to our communities about the sites that will be developed. It is time we brought certainty to our current and future generations that they will have job opportunities and access to a home they can afford in an area of their choice. It's not often in life we get a second chance at a decision, but today we have a choice: 633 houses or 309 houses, sites for job creation or to become a dormitory town, a future for our children here or to watch them move away for a better life. Let's get this through today and see our borough grow and prosper. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Billing. Can I ask if that is seconded? Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Can I ask now, are there any questions or does any member wish to speak to the report? Colleagues, I think I haven't got everyone down, but we'll start the debate and I'll pick them up as we go along. So Councillor Robertson was first.
Thank you very much. Just short and sweet. Can we ask the lead member to give a plain English explanation of exactly what the difference is today to what it was at the last vote? And I mean a plain English version because I haven't done the basic looking into it. The public gallery wants to know what the difference is. Please, proper explanation why it's different today compared to the last vote. Yep. Can you do that now, please?
Councillor Bellin? At the end, yes, Councillor, it's normal that it would be reply at the end. So your question will come at the end, if that's okay. I will, no, we'll make sure that it's asked. Thank you. Councillor Brennan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wish to speak. Thank you. We are back here again to face the same vote over the same local plan that this council rejected 6 months ago. What a disgrace and betrayal of the people of South Tyneside. Nothing has changed, nothing, other than the desperation this Labour administration now finds itself in. This second vote is evidence of that desperation. A disgraceful attempt to destroy the Green Belt and appease their overlords in Westminster, held at an obscure time to try and deter members of this council who work or who have children from attending. It hasn't gone unnoticed. Government, the Labour government, has changed the NPPF and rules on planning to take power and decisions away from local authorities, to allow it to cash in on nature, on protected land, on Green Belt land. While they spin you fanciful stories of protecting the environment, the ocean and nature with their motions for the ocean and climate emergencies, they have recategorised what the protected Green Belt is. It's no longer green, it's now grey. You will hear them this morning telling you we don't have a choice, that if we don't vote for this bad plan, then their government in Westminster, which has changed the rules, will take this decision away from us, that it will be worse, that local democracy will be overruled. Basically, accept our bad plan or else. Well, there is a choice, and that choice is simple. I was elected to be the voice of Westoe and not Westminster. The plan in Westoe facilitates the destruction of the college, its playing fields, and many mature trees. A bad plan that has no scope to improve local services, waiting lists, school places, hospital beds, doctors, dentists, and the quality of life for many of my residents. The choice is simple for me, and it should be simple for you. This is South Tyneside. This is our home. It's the people living here that should decide what we do with our land for our children and for our children's children. We should reject this plan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robertson, please. Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I take umbrage at being called a sheep, but there we go. Last time the plan was up for vote. I spoke about my previous involvement with the campaign group Generation Rent and my experiences in the private rental sector. I stand by what I said then. We must build new homes to allow first-time buyers the opportunity to get on the housing ladder and to purchase a home in the borough. The local plan does provide homes for sale below the market value. Voting down the local plan will simply kick the can down the road in terms of what we can do to help alleviate the housing crisis in South Tyneside. I recently joined my Hebden South colleagues in the ward delivering our leaflet in the Ellison Grove estate in Hebden. This is a new development of approximately 400 houses. While I was there, I had a look around and I spotted only 4 homes which were empty, which no one had bought and moved into yet. 4 out of the entire development. So that tells me it's a the extent of the demand for houses in South Tyneside. The people that have moved into Allison Grove and the other new estates in Hebben South, they're taking their kids to the football club for training matches. They're going to the matches at the weekend. They're going to the Hebben food market. They're joining the gyms and the swimming baths in the town centre. And also getting involved in the local community groups that we have. So for me, the local plan isn't just about building houses, it's about creating new communities, strengthening the communities that we have, and creating new opportunities for people. So that's why I'll be voting yes for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Going to reiterate what Councillor Brennan's just said. Everything and more. This government, your party, I don't trust them as far as I could throw them. And it doesn't matter about this local plan, because the local plan, regardless of whether it goes in or not, they will take that decision away from us at a higher level. You've just got to look at what they do now. The battery plant at Bolden, rejected by our own councillors. What's happened? It goes to the inspectorate and it gets taken away. So forget the fact that the old NPPF states 300 and odd houses, because when it comes to it, your party will do what they want. They will lie to the public like they have lied to us from the day they were put in place, and that will not change. Northumbrian Water has still not addressed the issues that are going on in the area. All of a sudden, we have a flurry of contractors coming along around Felgate in the dead of night, aim range, furiously trying to clear the drains. We've now got Esh Drainage working on the Don Valley, furiously trying to clear the drains so that they can try and make these services fit for purpose. There's millions of tons of raw sewage going into our rivers. Motion for the ocean. It means nothing whilst this is all going on. You're going to turn this borough into an urban sprawl of concrete that can't cope with the water that we have now. The drainage issues, the flooding, the traffic. We have a climate emergency. All that extra traffic going up the A194, polluting our area. You just don't care. Your government doesn't care. They will railroad whatever decisions we make. And if this gets rejected again, I've no doubt they'll come in, all the scaremongering, well, you're going to get 600 houses anyway. We'll get that regardless. And it'll take for our residents to take to the fields in their tents to stop this from going ahead. And I believe they will do that. We've got a flawed plan here that mentions wildlife surveys. Those surveys were only started in December. They're supposed to go on for a year. We're now in April. The wildlife surveys haven't been finished yet. It's in the plan. It's flawed. It's wrong. Our residents don't want it. Everything you do, if you look at an aerial picture now of the northeast, we are surrounded by swathes of
Councillor
green
Kennedy,
belt.
1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're surrounded by swathes of green belt in Sunderland, Newcastle, Gateshead, North Tyneside. Felgate is the last piece of green belt that stretches up through the Boldens that we have. And once it's gone, it's gone. You say that we're building houses so people can afford them. There are no affordable houses being built in this borough. Affordable is social housing. And the only way we're going to get social housing is if the government steps in and starts building. It's undemocratic what you have done today. It's a waste of resources, all the officers and the time and everything else. And I won't be voting for this plan, and I implore you to look at what your residents actually want. That's why our public gallery is full today, why we've had protesters on the steps today, the same as we did at the last plan. It's flawed, it's wrong, it's undemocratic, and nothing will change because your government will see to that. And they have proved time and time again since they got into power, they are liars, and they will just railroad over whatever goes on today.
Councillor
So don't
Kennedy.
try and hoodwink us. This is where we are, and it needs to stay where we are, and it needs to be rejected again. Thank you.
Councillor Francis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we're being asked to reconsider a plan that was rejected last year. And we know that there are strong concerns from residents and stakeholders, but the plan is unchanged and the key issues remain. A better plan was possible, and I believe a better plan is still needed. The Greens have engaged with the whole process through the consultation stages in recent years, as have many others, but we still have serious concerns. We had concerns about the plan last September. Those concerns remain now, and I know they do for many residents who've made their views very clear. The NPPF states that transport must be planned from the outset, but this plan lacks sufficient commitment to public transport, cycling and active travel routes. Without these, we risk, as we've heard, increasing congestion and emissions, failing both residents and climate targets. This plan also misses the opportunity to mandate zero carbon homes or sufficiently strong commitments to on-site renewables and energy efficient housing. In a cost of living crisis, we should be ensuring that all homes are warm, affordable and sustainable. And in the ward that we're in right now in Beacon and Bents, just outside this building, the sections in the local plan on the over-concentration of HMOs is simply not robust enough. We would want to see this policy strengthened by limiting the concentration to no more than 5%, especially in the Beach Road and Lawtop areas. More widely on housing, as I said last year, we need the right homes in the right place at the right price. And we need the supporting infrastructure in place so people can easily access the things they need. Sadly, it sounds like we don't have the confidence that this plan delivers this. There's no easy answer here, and it feels like we're being presented with two options: voting for a plan that we feel is deeply flawed, or stepping into the unknown with possible government intervention and speculative development. But as Councillor Kennedy says, we know that even where places have a local plan agreed and in place, this Labour government is forcing additional housing numbers on them. So voting for this plan would not be a safeguard against that happening. I can't, in all good conscience, vote for this plan as it currently stands and let down the many people who've been in touch and made their feelings very clear. I urge others to reject the plan today.
Thank you. Councillor Porthouse? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm voting for the local plan to protect what plots of land we have remaining in heaven. In my opinion, speculative development will take it out of our control if the plan isn't in place. For those of you who don't know, heaven's a place on earth with one metro station and one main road going through it, with a very stretched infrastructure that's going to be put under extra pressure when the 100 units at the Robury site and the 446 at the Hawthorne Leslie site are occupied, and the impact they will have on our infrastructure is yet to be realised. Hebburn was a proud industrial town and has a lot of history. We invited Scottish and Irish workers to Hebburn, which saw the birth of Hawthorne Leslie's, which built over 250 ships. When I look at it now, it's become what I would describe as a commuter town, which isn't a bad thing. And I welcome new residents, which we did with the Scots and Irish. And while they may not be from Hebburn, their children and grandchildren will be, and I want them to be as proud of Hebburn as I am. The makeup of the town, however, has changed and is unrecognisable from my youth. Madam Mayor, if you forgive me, and if I sound like the proclaimers, I apologise, but the Pyro no more houses, Whites no more houses, Big Mastic no more houses, the Woodyard no more houses, Farsis no more houses, Railroads no more houses, Big Up Perkins no more houses, Big Up Perkins Sports Field no more houses, Hawthorne Leslie's no more houses, Hawthorne Leslie's Sports Ground no more houses, Fraser's no more houses, the Curry Club no more houses, Simpson's
Councillor,
Hostel no
please.
more houses,
Councillor Robertson,
the Ballastell no
please.
more houses, the Council Yard no more houses. Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Roberts.
Madam Mayor, how rude, and I expected a little bit better from you. If we don't have this, if we don't have this plan, Hebburn isn't in the plan, because this is why it isn't in the plan, because we've got so many flaming houses in Hebburn, and the people in Hebburn are fed up with it. And we don't have a local plan. I'm voting for the local plan to protect not only Hebburn, but the borough from the perspective.
Councillor Porthouse, 1 minute, please.
Speculative developers exploiting loopholes
And I'm voting for the local plan as I believe it protects the borough from speculative development and maintains a level of control for the council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Can I ask councillor Jin now, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I was at the meeting the first time round, I spoke in support of the Brinkburn Centre. And again, this is what I'm going to talk about today. Since that Borough Council meeting, I have remained in regular contact with the coach of the 10 girls football teams who use the playing fields in Brinkburn and who use the changing facilities in the Brinkburn Community Centre. These teams use the facilities on a weekly basis. Excuse me, I've got to turn over. And the coach regularly receives requests for those fields to be used by other teams. I've also been in contact with a representative from Sport England who has informed me that although the council had mentioned the use of alternative fields, there is a lot of work required to make those areas suitable, and that as South Tyneside Council has done nothing to cause them to trust that this is going to happen, they will be unable to support the local plan as it stands. I have also been informed by the centre staff that in order to save their community building, they must put together a business plan and show how they can take over the full cost of running the centre. The local plan fails to meet the standards outlined by Sport England regarding the protection and enhancement of community sports facilities. The NPPF states that existing open space, sports and recreational buildings and land, including playing fields, should not be built on unless the loss resulting from the proposed development would be replaced by equivalent or better provision. The plan inadequately addresses the need for replacement or enhancement facilities in areas affected by new developments. The NPPF further emphasises the importance of planning policies that promote social interaction, including opportunities for meetings between people who might not otherwise come into contact with each other. For example, through mixed-use development, strong neighbourhood centres, street layouts that allow for easy pedestrian and cycle connections. The local plan's limited commitment to sports and recreational spaces undermines this.
Councillor Jin, 1 minute, please.
Fine, thank you. The Green Party values access to community sports and recreational spaces as essential for promoting physical and mental health, fostering social cohesion, and ensuring equitable access to leisure opportunities. The plan's oversight in this area disproportionately affects vulnerable groups, including children and low-income families who rely on public recreational facilities. The local plan should be revised to guarantee the protection and enhancement of community sports facilities, ensuring compliance with both national guidelines and the local community needs. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Foreman? Councillor Foreman?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Where to start? I've always been, in the last time I stood up talking about the local plan, I talked about having control of our own destiny. And I still believe that. Although Councillor Brennan made a joke of intervention, Councillor Kennedy really put a good point across. But
Councillor,
the trouble is, if this plan doesn't go through, you can guarantee intervention. Because after the last meeting and the last vote, we've had 8 meetings with the government intervention team, and you can guarantee that they will be looking at this meeting today to see whether we can get this plan through. It's a robust plan. Councillor Robertson asked what the change was. The change was the NPPF, where the extra pressure of the houses was put on, which means that, as the lead member indicated, that there's 200 hectares of extra land going to be needed. So that 200 hectares, whether it's grey or green, would have to be used for the numbers that this government's talking about, 5,300. And when you consider, and it's been made a point on the other side that, we have the residents on our side. Well, there's 150,000 residents in this borough. There's 4,000 residents on the waiting list. There's 750 of those residents who, for different areas, are very vulnerable through homelessness, through welfare, through various other. I cannot move it. So various other things. So that's why we need this plan to go through. It's a robust plan, and the only change that has been put is the numbers game. So once again, we're here to try and help the whole of South Tyneside, not just certain elements of residents. It's for the whole of South Tyneside, and that's why the policies are as they are, and that's why we need to vote this plan in, not out.
Can I, Councillor Kennedy, please? This is 3 times I've had to speak to members on this side, which is misconduct. I'm sorry, you know, it is a very important item that we are discussing today. And can I also ask the public gallery, please be courteous and allow members on all sides to speak. Otherwise, I'm so sorry, but I'd have to ask to clear the public gallery. We must have order. Thank you. Councillor Robertson. I have warned you. Councillor Robertson, I have asked, please, for order in this chamber today. Any more outbursts, and I'm sorry, but I'll have to remove the councillors. I'm so sorry, but it's not my style, as you know, but we cannot have this. It is so important to discuss this. So we must have order. Thank you. Councillor Foreman, had you completed? Thank you. Can I have Councillor Myers now, please?
Madam Mayor, I am a believer in that local decision should be made locally, and that local democracy should be the driving force behind the decision-making process. However, the Labour government want to remove that power, and force local authorities such as ours into rash judgments around planning. The local plan is a rash judgment. It has been designed with the new Labour demands from the National Planning Policy Framework in mind. It has not been thought out properly and will destroy 5% of our valuable greenbelt land. This is national government imposing their will on our greenbelt land and changing the rules so it's easier to build on. It's no longer greenbelt, it's now grey. They must think the people of South Tyneside are stupid, and I can assure you they are definitely not. The party sitting opposite, comprised of the very same members wishing to do their party bidding in Westminster at your expense. They would have you believe we don't have a choice, but we do. It's their plan. They can make it. They can change it. Labour wants to build 1.5 million new homes and don't care what local authorities and local people think. This local plan, the NPPF and the Labour government it serves are a disgrace, an assault on our very quality of life. I cannot and will not vote for this plan in its current form. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The local plan helps us to deliver our vision of financial security, health and well-being, connected to jobs, including high-skilled, well-paid jobs, part of strong communities, targeting support to make things fairer, help meet our environmental commitments, protect land identified for employment, support new businesses and infrastructure projects, increase skills and educational opportunities, support sustainable communities. The local plan gives us control of determining our priorities for developments for our communities and residents. The local plan is a key part of our growth and improvement initiatives to revitalise across the borough. It builds on enhancing our visitor economy and growing local businesses. We control the protection of our natural environment, from historic assets to enhancing our green and blue network throughout the borough, including trees, hedgerows and woodlands, and protects our natural habitats, all of which improve health and well-being outcomes for our children and residents. The council is committed to tackling poverty in South Tyneside, and a key component of that is tackling unemployment through job creation with well-paid jobs that improve financial security. A healthier environment plays a key role in helping us achieve health equity across our communities. This is why I am supporting the local plan. It allows us to determine our priorities, which delivers better outcomes for our residents, our businesses, our regeneration, our children's future, and our communities. Please support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barclay. Councillor Kilgour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I do feel that it was a very contentious decision to make to bring the plan back. I personally don't believe that there are any material changes, and those changes are simply that the NPPF now is in legislation. The minutes of the meeting in September state that it was considered. The forthcoming NPPF was included in the consideration and the deliberation at that meeting. I've been elected for 11 years, in May. The plan in 2018 was all red with regards to Felgate Greenbelt, and that was a consultant's view. The current plan with a different consultant is that it is no longer in the red. Do you want me to speak louder?
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah.
Put the two microphones, Councillor.
Yeah, is that better? Okay, so the plan in 2018 was all red, and that was a consultant's view. The current plan is from a different consultant, and it has a different view. The number of 309 that is designed currently in this current plan will switch to 627 should this not go through. However, should this go through, in 2027, suggesting that the inspection in public is also supported, the local authority will have to go straight back out to look for the difference in the numbers. So in all honesty, I don't believe that anything is saved by forcing this through today. We'll be straight back for a greater number. I'm very grateful to our monitoring officer who yesterday corrected or certainly made it very clear an entry on the website which didn't state about having to go back out in 2027, and I think that has provided some great clarity, so thank you. The grey belt, we've literally just got the consultation document, in firm form, and there's been no real discussion about what constitutes grey belt. And therefore, to switch Felgate Greenbelt to grey belt, in my opinion, hasn't been fully considered, and it certainly isn't. It's green belt, there is no doubt.
1 minute, please.
Okay, so what I would really like to say is we've missed all of the things that we need to mention about this. The environment, the farming of the 5th generation farmer that is currently in place, the drainage, the flooding, the road infrastructure, NWL and its capacity, the transport links, Nexus, the metro, and specifically the road network. The opposition will not like this, but I'm going to say it. So Keir Starmer, before the election, said, country before party. I think that can translate for me to community before politics, certainly. I made a promise, and it's a promise of conscience, and my word is my bond. I'm going back to basics. I'm going back to the promise that I made to Ron Smith before he passed
Can
away.
you wind up, please, councillor?
And we do need to go back to basics. The plan isn't palatable, and I think we need to start from scratch, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Herbert? Is it Councillor Herbert wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Climate change is the biggest threat that faces all mankind, everyone in this chamber and everyone in our borough. Now, climate change is caused by greenhouse gases, and planning plays a central role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the NPPF states that the planning system should support the transition to a low carbon future in a changing climate, and plans should take a proactive approach to mitigating and adapting to climate change. This plan is very weak with regard to these requirements. Under this plan, building thousands of homes will produce tens of thousands of tons of greenhouse gases in South Tyneside. It is surely far better to design and build these homes in a way that reduces greenhouse gases emissions from day one. Not doing this will require more expensive retrofitting later to reach the 2050 net zero carbon targets required by the Climate Change Act. It would also help to reach the South Tyneside Council's pledge to make South Tyneside net zero carbon by 2045, which is now only 20 years away. This pledge was made by the Council Cabinet as part of the Council's membership of the UK 100 group of local authorities. Now, this is the same Cabinet that approved the local plan driving a coach and horses through this pledge by ignoring the greenhouse gases that will be produced. As members of UK 100, they could have found examples of good practice in other local authorities when making their local plan. One such example is Warwick, who, like South Tyneside, has declared a climate emergency and to make the 2045 net zero pledge. As part of their local plan, Warwick Council created a planning document mandating developers to build to higher carbon reduction standards. This was done by designing for improved energy efficiency and reducing energy demand of housing in their local plan. This was created by a cross-party working group and should be something the proposed South Tyneside Council's Climate Change Task and Finish group should investigate. This is certainly something the Green Group would support. Warwick Planning Guidance has been examined as part of their local plan, submitted to the Planning Inspector in April 2024, and it was judged to be sound. This means that houses built in Warwick will be more comfortable and warm to live in, cheaper to heat, and not add to the area's net carbon emissions. Surely this is something South Tyneside should have ensured under this local plan, but clearly it does not. For this reason,
Councillor Herbert, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. For this reason and many other deficiencies highlighted by my fellow councillors, I cannot support this version of the South Tyneside local plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting this draft local plan. It's about the future of our borough, the prosperity of our communities, and the legacy we leave for generations to come. The draft local plan before us today is not just a framework for development, it is a commitment to our residents. A commitment to provide them with affordable homes, secure jobs and economic hubs like the International Advanced Manufacturing Park, modern transport solutions, including upgrades to the A19 and metro network, and stronger environmental protections for sites like Cleeden Hills and the coastline. We are already progressing a programme of building new council housing at Hindmarch Drive, West Bolton, as well as schemes at Lizard Lane and Reynolds Avenue in South Shields. A strong local economy does not happen by accident. It requires vision and planning. This plan lays the foundation for economic growth, attracting businesses, creating jobs, and ensuring South Tyneside remains a competitive and prosperity place to work. As Councillor Melling has just outlined, the new NPPF provides a local housing target for South Tyneside of a minimum of 623 homes a year, as opposed to the 309 outlined in the current draft plan. If we agree the draft plan this morning, we'd not be required to meet the higher housing figure. If we don't agree this draft plan today, this means that all the sites open to development in previous versions of the plan will be put back in to meet the housing needs identified in the new NPPF, some 27 sites. And if you bear with me, because I am speaking on behalf of my residents in Whitburn and Marsden, that would include land at Wellands Farm, which would have an impact on wading birds, which are a priority species. And it would also impact on the land west of Cleeden Lane, Whitburn, which Green Study Belt Study identifies the site as having high harm on the purposes of the Green Belt. If we don't, how are we going to justify to your residents that the sites they thought were going to be safe are now up for grabs? Surely this is a no-brainer. The decision we make this morning will determine whether South Tyneside moves forward with purpose or risks being left behind. We must take this opportunity to shape a future that is sustainable, ambitious and inclusive. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask Councillor Thompson, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, good. Yes. Just like to go back to Councillor Melling with her presentation. She mentioned you're obliged by government to produce this plan. Well, I think on this side of the chamber, we feel obliged to represent the views of our residents. So 3 minutes here to express my concerns on this retabled, once rejected and unchanged local plan. It's just not enough time, but I'll highlight some points. This local plan has already been rejected because it is seriously flawed and simply unsustainable. But more importantly, it's not what the majority of our residents want. And I think we've all been lobbied, and I haven't had one person writing to me or stop me in the street saying I support this. And this is absolutely key, because it's hugely important for us here today as councillors, because we should be standing here representing the voice of our residents. We shouldn't be blindly following, no matter what the pressures are, the Labour Party line. But bringing this same local plan, already been mentioned, I think it's an insult to the people to bring this back. It's costing an awful lot of money. It's insulting. There's no change. It's unnecessary. But putting that insult to one side, more seriously is the soundness of this local plan. And as I mentioned, 3 minutes, I haven't got enough time to go to mention all of the aspects of concern. But one example I'd like to highlight is that the playing pitch strategy, I think Councillor Ginn touched on this, and the playing pitch assessment report have still not been published. The impact of this is that there are now allocations of playing field sites proposed to be developed for housing, which do not have replacement or mitigation measures in place in the local plan. As the emerging playing pitch strategy informed these allocations without the final version of this being included in the plan's evidence base, these allocations are therefore invalid, and without an incomplete evidence base, this plan cannot be sound. And this is just one example.
1 minute, Councillor.
1 minute, thank you. Of course, we see other issues with the local plan all across South Tyneside. Flood risks, sewage issues, loss of green belt, overdevelopment, lack of social and affordable housing, lack of infrastructure, all summed up simply with one word: unsustainable. I want to round off with a mention for my ward, Westoe, and the proposed major housing development on the college site. Significant environmental damage, loss of playing fields, lack of social and affordable housing, loss of wildlife habitats, loss of 143 mature, historic and healthy trees, endangering bat foraging grounds, out-of-date bat report, endangering 107 recorded bird species that nest and forage in the area. 260 houses.
Can you wind up, Councillor, please?
260 houses will be built on this site from the local plan. This directly borders on the historic Westover village and the conservation area that it sits in. Westover residents would have supported a sympathetic and reasonable housing development, but they can't support this. I will not, again, not be supporting this unsustainable local plan.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Strike, please. Councillor Strike.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can we just first of all not lose sight that the local plan process started under a Conservative government. Regulation 1819 consultations were under the Conservative government. That's just one point. We're practically the only council who doesn't have an up-to-date local plan, which does leave us very vulnerable for any future planning applications. And we actually don't have any alternative about meeting the housing targets. So we can say all we like in here that we won't do this and we won't do that. But the fact is that 309 will turn into 623 if we don't actually accept this plan. Where I'm coming from is, why would we not want to be in the driving seat in my own borough? Why would we want inspectors to make our decisions for our borough? Why would we not agree 309 and allow 623 to take place instead? It is also very interesting that I don't believe the Stag Independent Group did take up the offer to have the presentation with the Planning Advisory Service and listen to all arguments for them to make an informed decision. Or would that just be because playing up to the cameras and you all know what the ramifications are going to be if we don't accept this? The other thing is, I'd like to say, I don't think anybody's come forward with any brownfield sites. I have seen on Facebook where we seem to be talking about Rom and Hass being a viable option. Well, it's up for sale. Everybody knows it's up for sale. That's actually the market document. And it actually states in the market document, the freehold interest is offered for sale subject to a restrictive covenant not to use for residential purposes. And I think we all know why that is, because the land's contaminated. The owner will never sell it, but the owner will never sell it for housing. So that's just a red herring as far as I'm concerned on that one. Bolton, like other areas, we've had lots of our green belt built on over the years: Cotswolds, Harden Park, Leander Drive, the business park, the leisure park. And we still have a few bits of green belt areas in Bolton in this proposed local plan. Two things that were taken out, which should have never been in, were the two parks, which did have restrictive covenants on them. Disco Park in 1961, that land was... Sorry?
Councillor, please. Please allow the councillor to finish.
And I have extra time, Madam Mayor, for being interrupted.
Please.
Thank you. In 1961, the land was transferred to South Tyneside Council with a restrictive covenant, agricultural and recreational purposes only, as did Dype Lane, had a covenant in from 1930. I did officially object to these being in the plan, and they were taken out with just cause, because they had covenants on them that had to be used for recreation. But I just will say, at that point, there was no objection from any would-be independent councillors for the petition that I submitted, or my actual personal objection that I submitted. And talking about the battery energy system, I'm glad you brought that up, Councillor Kennedy, because that's another thing that I did oppose because of its, it's an industrial development.
Councillor, can you wind up?
Yeah, adjacent to an education centre with fire risks in a village with a conservation status. Yet again, no independent Bolton councillor attended the planning meeting to actually vote against this. There is some things that are not suitable for greenbelt purposes, but I find it amusing that the independents just seem to want to choose when they want to defend the greenbelt and not even in their own wards. Last thing,
excuse me,
Madam Mayor, one more thing.
1 minute, please, Councillor Strike. Councillor Robertson, if I have to ask you to be quiet once more, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to remove you from the chamber.
Can we make that a point of order, please, Madam Mayor?
Please.
Madam Mayor, can we make that a point of order, please? You said at the beginning of this meeting that we weren't allowed to levy personal attacks, yet the councillor is blatantly attacking a Bolton councillor that isn't even on planning.
Madam Mayor, I think,
Right, can you wind up
I
now,
will do. Can I
please?
just say, I think the opposition personally attack everybody on the other side of the chamber constantly, calling them liber and liars, God knows what. So we just take that on the chin. So please just take it on the chin.
Right.
Sorry, Madam
Madam
Mayor.
Mayor, point of order, that hasn't happened in this meeting.
Councillor, can we just
finish, Madam Mayor?
simmer down now, please? Councillors on this side of the house, everyone, all of the members, the public gallery are all behaving in a professional and proper manner, except from this side. Please, well, I'm hearing all the time. If you can please, I ask you, I want no more calling out, please. Councillor Kennedy, please sit down. The mayor is standing.
I'll sit down, but I've got a point of order, please.
Right. What is your point of
You are
order?
now attacking us personally.
I'm asking
you are not. You have said you will not accept it, and you're attacking us personally.
Can everyone just simmer down? Yes. I can read out, you know, if people persistently discard my rulings, if people persistently talk when other members are speaking, everyone is behaving in a professional manner, except I can hear things coming over. Please, Councillor Oliver, please, the mayor is standing. Right, let us continue, colleagues. Have you finished, Councillor Strike?
Just one more thing, just regarding the battery energy storage system. I believe that if we did have a local plan, maybe applications like this would be able to be controlled for the future. And that's about it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask Councillor Harrison, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just like to say, everything I've heard on my side of the chamber, council chamber, from all the opposition has been everything that I expected. Did agree with a couple of points what Councillor Kilgour put over about going back to look at brownfield, greyfield sites. But I had to laugh at the likes of Councillor Porthouse, where he must have been hanging around with the Deans' twins, with I would walk 500 miles with a tartan suits on. But he's going on about what he's going on about. He mentioned the proclaimers. Anyway, getting back to a little bit of a history lesson for Councillor Strike and quite a few others in the council chamber. Let's go back to 2006. I stood as an independent with the Felgate Greenbelt campaigners because they wanted to build 1,200 homes on there. That's 19 years ago. And I stood with them and we got rid of a Labour councillor who had been in situation for 33 years. 2007, we got rid of the next Labour councillor. 2008, we got rid of the then council leader, Paul Waggett. We cleaned the three out because they didn't back the campaigners of saving the Greenbelt. We defeated it then, and all I'm saying to all you is now in the council chamber, this is deja vu. It's coming back. You're not going to back your residents, so every one of you that support this plan is all history in 2026. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, information, please. Madam Mayor, point of information, please. Councillor Harrison. I did say, Madam Mayor, forgive me if I sound like the proclaimers. Okay? So I did acknowledge that fact. And I'm sticking up for the people in heaven. We're maxed out with houses, and that's what I'm here for, to represent heaven and the people in heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to vote against the plan. I listened to Councillor Porthouse make reference to the proclaimers. I'm not going to give up my day job, and I've had major throat surgery, so I can't sing it. Sorry. So I'm precluded from singing. But if I read the words as a children's nurse of 45 years and somebody who worked in child and adolescent mental health, I would simply say this. I believe that children are their future. Teach them well, and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. I'm not being overly emotional here. Young people, children need a future. Yes, they need houses. They need houses that are fit for purpose, not in damp conditions where mould exists and where they can die from that mould. But the children do need the green spaces. When I trained, we started our course and we were simply asked in the morning, where did you play? Where did you recreate? Where did you go? And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I roamed Blackberry Hills and the beaches on a council estate that was built by a Labour government post-war. It was different then. It's not easy now. And it's greed, absolute greed of the previous government, whether you like it or not, that have brought us to this hiatus. But how we manage that hiatus is important. And so if we're going to be put between a rock and a hard place, 309 or semantically 693 or whatever, that's a terrible choice. And we're now out of time. I regret that we didn't have other time before Christmas to have this debate. If you look at the emissions currently, children are dying from emissions and respiratory disorder. If you look at the mental health crisis created by the last government, not Labour, not Labour, the Tory government, we have a massive mental health crisis for children and adolescents and young people and the elderly, and it's not going to get any better. So therefore, we have got very few options. We are all at a point of convergence, but we are not helped by government if we are going to be forced by the 6th of March or the 12th. Surely there are auspices and back channels to go to government, regional, the unitary authority, and say this is just an impossible position. We cannot, we should not, and we will not be straight-armed, shackled and throttled into this zero options choice. Think of the children as a starting point. Think of the emissions and the carcinogenic trouble that they're going to have. The greatest will in the world. I don't know whether
Councillor, 1 minute left.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The floodplain, is the drainage sufficient? As Councillor Kennedy has said, there are massive problems now within the borough of sewage. I've got it 100 yards from my door in a canny little area, and we have these difficulties. It's not easy, but this current hiatus should never have come to pass. We are nearly out of time, but we shouldn't be shackled. There's still time. I believe government need to get off the high horse, come and meet the people and get a better solution. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right. Councillor T. Roberts. Councillor T. Roberts.
Blown away by Phil's speech there. It'll probably be going back over a lot that's been gone over already, but back in September, the local plan was presented and debated democratically. The vote resulted in the local plan being rejected for many reasons, shown it was unsustainable and flawed. I can see no changes in the document presented here today that convinces me that we as a council should move forward with this plan. What is presented here is simply a regurgitation of a failed local plan that in no way benefits the borough, certainly not the residents of Felgate, Hebworth and Corfe Close. This Labour-led council has done nothing more than sit on their hands for the last 6 months, making no attempt to address the obvious flaws in this plan. Fears over flooding, overloaded sewerage systems, the effect on mental health because of loss of open spaces, the damage that will inevitably be caused to air quality and public health due to a certain rise in CO2 emissions, as the roads around Felgate become gridlocked with another 2,000 cars. Felgate is a generational farm. The loss of good or arable farmland that supplies much needed resources to the food chain in a failing public transport system that is not fit for purpose. Yet this council will lead us to believe that the introduction of another 3,000 plus residents on Felgate will experience no problems should the need to rely on bus and metro services. And also not forgetting to mention the devastating effect this will have on the local wildlife population. I could go on, as the flaws in this plan are not exhaustible. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the members and supporters of Felgate Greenbelt Group, who by their dedication, knowledge, research and expertise have exposed this local plan for what it is, and that is a failure. What recently watched has been labelled NIMBYs, have myopic views, and being told to get a grip from members opposite, both past and present. It is of little wonder that accusations of these types levelled at residents have led to the public trust in this Labour group being at an all-time low.
Councillor, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was elected by residents of my ward to represent and support them, adhere to the wishes and give advice where I'm able. Residents are well aware of the possible ramifications should this plan once again be rejected, but they are determined to protect their environment for future generations, and I fully support them in this. I've listened not only to residents of my ward, but also those borough-wide who want to preserve our greenbelt. Perhaps members opposite should do the same. What is being put to members today is nothing more than a copy and paste of a local plan that has already been presented and rejected in a democratically taken vote in this chamber.
Councillor, can you wind up, please?
Yes, last paragraph. I've been contacted by many residents regarding the call in this meeting and its timing, expressing their disgust as to what they see as a deliberate attempt to subvert and manipulate the vote we're about to take. The people of South Tyneside are no fools. They have woken up to the fact that this Labour group cannot be trusted to serve their best interests. They will not forgive or forget those of you who have called and supported this government today, or the votes you were about to cast. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor. Councillor Dean, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the lead member for the voluntary sector, partnerships and equalities, I can't stress enough the need to support a local plan. For me, it's a no-brainer. Rejecting the local plan could be so detrimental to our community and the environment in the long term. Approval of the local plan would mean we could proceed with local housing figures of 309 dwellings per annum and would require the least amount of green belt being lost. If the publication draft local plan is submitted prior to the 12th of March 2025, it will not be subject to the new housing figures, which more than doubles to 623 per annum. Rejecting the plan means that we would need to develop approximately 5,300 additional dwellings, and at least 160 hectares of additional land would be affected. As a thriving, prosperous borough, we need an equally thriving voluntary sector. Where would we be without our volunteers? We need to encourage our children and grandchildren, who are our future, to remain in the borough and develop their skills and become the entrepreneurs of the future. If we can encourage people, particularly the young, to live and work here, including voluntary work, then they will be looking for ways to contribute whatever skills they have. New housing brings new families and with it prosperity. As a strong advocate of the South Tyneside Pledge, I can't stress enough how important it is to keep things local, and accepting the local plan would enable us to be in control of our needs, but rejection would take it out of our control and into the hands of the bureaucrats from the government department down London. And for this reason, I support the proposals of the local plan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Yeh?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you can imagine, I'm disappointed that this plan is back before our council today, despite its clear rejection last year. The view from members in all parts of the chamber was that the plan, and the view from the public was clear. The plan does not reflect the needs of our borough, and substantial change is needed. Instead, we're presented with a plan today that's not undergone the reconsultation needed for substantial on main modification. To be clear, any inference that our local decision-making will be overruled is a political decision from our national government, a Labour national government. a decision that includes insisting on housing targets that in no way reflect our local need or population trends. And just as a point of clarification to what another member has said this morning, the draft plan actually outlines 3 sites in Hebburn with 271 units of houses allocated. Those are sites H24, H25 and GA1. And with reference to protection of jobs, just as one contrary example, site H8 will have a clear negative impact on 4 small businesses who clearly serve the West Park ward that I represent. Our local plan should be shaped by local voices, not forced upon us by those in Westminster. The draft plan did not have my support last time. It does not have my support today. Thank you.
Point of information, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wood.
Point of information, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had several messages, phone calls and that from residents of the Tyneside ward. And one big question is, why is this being brought back to the council when it has been rejected before? They've asked me why, and I said honestly, it's because Labour don't like to be beaten. They like it their own way. They then asked, how am I going to vote? I said the same as last time, against it. If this did go ahead, several hundred new homes or whatever, hundreds of trees, shrubs will be destroyed, wetland destroyed, resulting in less habitat for the birds, butterflies, moths, bees, swans, ducks, rabbits, etc. If it did get passed, how much more pollution we're going to have from all the other cars? Because now every house is going to have at least 2 cars, maybe 3. A couple I know recently moved from Shields to the Maples estate. They went to register at Glen Street Doctors. They were told, come back 3 weeks' time. We've got no appointments. So another few hundred houses is going to make it just totally unstable, same as with dentists. I'm sorry, but for today, I will be voting with my residents and how I feel, and that will be against it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I want to stand up today to say I am supporting the local plan. This local plan has went on for 13 years, believe it or not. 13 years. It's came and gone, but there's been many local plans. Lots of it hasn't come to fruition, hasn't happened. But what I'm saying is, if we are not in the driving seat, we're better being in the driving seat instead of somebody in Whitehall put a cross on the paper where we've got no control of our land. I want to see, like, St Temple Park. I want to see tourists coming to our seafront. When you look at it, we've got a planning committee. Planning committee, there's planning regulations, biodiversity, net gain, you know, impact assessments, ecology. We'll have all this in place, sustainable drainage. We'll have to look at all this through planning. When it goes to the planning committee, it's a cross-party working group, really, because yous are deciding, mixture of Labour, opposition members, looking at the local plan, looking at what we're delivering within the borough, but it brings jobs, prosperity for the future. Councillor Brown mentioned about children living in damp homes. 4,000 homes are needed within the borough on the waiting list. 700 vulnerable people. We need to provide homes for these people. We don't want kids, like you mentioned, living in damp homes. South Tyneside Homes is delivering sustainable houses for the future. Houses which are unique. The white goods in the house actually heats the house and it uses very little heating. These are the kind of houses we're pushing for in South Tyneside. South Tyneside, yes, would declare the ecological emergency, climate emergency and ocean recovery. In the Bede ward, we've actually got Viking Energy Centre, which delivers energy. It delivers the council buildings, but in their ward is the most vulnerable. They have a fuel poverty crisis within Jarrow, within the whole borough, but they're at the highest point. We'll have an energy centre there, what can deliver for them. And that's what we're on about, delivering for the people. So today, I am supporting the local plan. It's not about now, but in a few years' time, yous will be regretting it when Whitehall puts that cross on the paper. But I'd rather be in the driving seat at this point. Thank you.
Point of information, Lady Mayor.
Yeah, it's just on what Councillor Gibson's just said there.
Yes.
He said that South Tyneside Homes are providing houses. South Tyneside Homes no longer exists, so I would suggest that he's living in the past the same as South Tyneside Homes.
Point of information, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just a point of information, there was a reference to passive house standards in what the member has just presented. The local plan sticks to local building regulation and doesn't impose a passive house standard on the new housing allocation. I think that was a misleading statement and I want that to be corrected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I do a point of information as well,
Councillor?
please? Point of information.
Councillor, please. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to give my thanks to the two local campaign groups, Save Felgate Greenbelt and Save South Tyneside College Trade Group. Key phrases from Labour like health outcomes, strong communities, spoken about today in the debate, yet these do not tie in with the facts of the local plan. Councillor Gibson said 4,000 homes needed for families, yet the local plan has no policy specifically for social housing and is something us opposition are campaigning for. Biddick and All Saints Ward, which I live and represent, is the most deprived ward in the whole of South Tyneside, and it'll lose so much with this local plan. Tudor Reed Fields will mostly be built on, and as I grew up in Biddick Hall and played on them fields, and before the old people's home was built, there was uproar just for a small people's home. To think that now most of them fields are going to go and the people of Biddick Hall be losing that real valuable asset to them is really upsetting. And also Egerton Road as well. 6 businesses just off Egerton Road will be getting lost, and the green spaces and trees will be lost as well. Now, I took part at every stage of the consultation period, yet I felt unheard, as I think many did as well. We must stand together. That means councillors, officers and residents stand against central government in their desperate need to build. Our town cannot support figures imposed upon us, neither the 307 or the 620 odd. The sewage system can't either. We cannot sit back whilst new building ravishes our green spaces, green belt and valued assets. The Office of National Statistics figures show these houses aren't needed. We need more campaigning and direct action to stop the destruction. Councillor Kennedy said, tents in fields. I agree. I'll be there. Councillors spoke at length in the September meeting against this plan. Nothing has changed. This local plan is not the best way forward for our town. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. First of all, can I just reflect back to September? We were very much closing down on the local plan when the new government came in. We were right through the process, so that's why it actually came in September. They allowed us to do that. Then obviously the MPPF, the final MPPF came out in December. So obviously this now gives us the opportunity to look at this and look at numbers. When Councillor Kennedy mentioned that the local plan doesn't matter in this meeting, I think you're wrong. The local plan does matter to the residents of this borough. And that was one of the opening comments that you actually said, Councillor Kennedy. We're not insulting our residents. We're trying to get a route and navigate through this for our residents to ensure that our residents' voices are heard, Councillor Thompson. Labour doesn't like to be beaten. How absolutely ludicrous. That is a comment that's being made. I just can't believe the comments that's coming through, Madam Mayor. But can I just say, listening to the debate, I'm absolutely and extremely disappointed that the opposition feel as though they cannot support this draft local plan. Councillor Strikes already touched upon the stag group who didn't take up the opportunity to meet our planners, to meet the planning advisory service, who are independent to the council. So in my opinion, Madam Mayor, I don't really think that the stag group are fully or professionally informed of the implications of not supporting this draft local plan.
Point of information, Madam Mayor.
At the end, please, Councillor.
Which I have to say, Madam Mayor, it has been endorsed as a sound plan. We listened to our residents who raised concerns about specific sites, and when the buffer was removed by the previous government, it gave us an opportunity to look at all of the sites again, with a number of 27 sites in total being removed, with 3 already in the planning, already given planning permission, and another actually being developed. Madam Mayor, those 23 sites, a couple have already been highlighted there by Councillor Carter. The land south of Clevedon Park, land west of Sunnyside Farm. The councils of Clevedon and East Borden, they'll understand this one because it's been a hot potato. The MOD bunkers, medical stores and associated land. Land at the south of St John's Terrace and Nadley Avenue. Land at Brockley Avenue. Land at Headworth. Land at Heathway Greenlands Headworth. Land at Kings Meadows Headworth. Land at Calf Close Walk. Land of North and East Holland Drive. Madam Mayor, these are just a handful of the 23 that has actually been removed. Madam Mayor, it would be interesting to see if this draft local plan is rejected, how the opposition are going to explain their decision on their vote against this plan for their residents when their residents told us what they wanted. And we responded. And the 23 of the sites I've mentioned will have to go back to further consultation if that is agreed. The suggestion by Councillor Kilgour, it would have to go back to a Reg 18 in 2027. And it wouldn't actually be looked to be adopted until 2030. But all of this would have to be looked at, Madam Mayor, and future sites. We're talking about increasing from 309 homes a year to 623. Madam Mayor, following that September meeting, I did have a chance to have conversations to find out the reasons why opposition actually voted against it. There was opportunities for members to meet planners, do turn pages, see what it is that we could try and do to actually have a local plan adopted here in South Tyneside, as Councillor Strike mentioned. I think we're one of the only ones in the country that hasn't got it. Madam Mayor, I know I've only got a minute. I could say. Madam Mayor, it'll also be interesting to see how opposition members are going to explain to their businesses that they've left them wide open to developers as to how they've now opened the door, the floodgates, Madam Mayor, with no hold bars to developers. As I mentioned, that the draft local plan is not just about housing, it's about infrastructure, schools and so much more. We as a council have a plan for social housing with Hindmouse Drive, which has just been mentioned by Councillor Gibson, which are state-of-the-art homes. They've been completed. We've got Reginald Street and Lizard Lane coming forward, and there's also a bid-in for a site in Felgate. Madam Mayor, we can develop our council-owned sites, and we'll continue to explore funding for this. Madam Mayor, we need to be in charge of our own destiny. We need to take control of this. Madam Mayor, I urge members to reflect on what they've discussed this morning. It's not about playing politics, Madam Mayor. It's not about personal gain. It's about doing what is right for our residents in our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, sir.
Point of information.
Would you like to raise your point, Councillor?
Just to put the record straight, regarding Stag's refusal to attend. This was initially dressed up as a training session, which I strongly refused. We then came back with a valid argument and asked why this was being railroaded through when democracy was being attacked. The time of the meeting, everything else. You say that, you just mentioned that this is what your residents want. You have ignored a nigh on 3,000 signature petition against this plan. You have allowed one of your councillors to vote against it, yet you're attacking us for not attending a training session, information session that we stated we have read up enough on this to know that the only thing that's changed is the numbers from 300 houses to 600 houses. And it doesn't matter what happens in our own planning department. We have regularly voted against things for them either to be voted down by the Labour Party, or they have came back through the planning inspectorate and been overturned. The whole thing is a farce. Thank you, Lady Mayor.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor,
Point
Madam
of
Mayor,
information, Councillor.
Madam Mayor, point of information. Point of information. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to confirm, the Labour Group have not given any members of the Labour Group permission to vote against this. Thank you.
Not this time, but you did last time. There's the same...
Councillor Robertson. Point of information on what, Councillor?
I wish they'd all calm down. I'm getting upset in here, I really am. I just want to nice and
Councillor
calm.
Robertson.
Madam Mayor, I think it's 2 points of information. Or I'm
Go
doing
ahead,
my best
councillor.
to think it's 2. So the leaders just sort of attacked the stag group. What the leader hasn't pointed out is one of our own Labour councillors has demonstrated a spine and clearly looks as though they're going to be voting against it. And my second point is...
Councillor, it's not a point of information.
Okay, my second point is, obviously, we've got to know that we're doing the right thing with this vote.
Absolutely.
I couldn't fully understand what Councillor Kilgour was saying before about the website.
It's not a point of
You
information.
just needed to explain, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor.
Madam Mayor, sorry, can I just for a point of information, I wasn't actually attacking the stag group. I was disappointed, Councillor Robertson. I was disappointed that the Greens actually had their discussions with the planners, Councillor Robertson. So I didn't attack the stag group at all.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Roberts. Oh, right, okay.
It's up to you who goes first.
Wait,
Madam Mayor. It's not up to Councillor Roberts.
Right.
It's up to you.
Well, just Councillor Davies, I had you next, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What this local plan is setting out to deliver is, in a way, economic recovery. But in the report attached to the local plan, we see our housing delivery test. And over the last 4 years presented, we are under that target consistently, falling away in 2022-23 to 60%. And in the first 3 quarters of last year, we deliver at 33%. So here in South Tyneside, the housing delivery that we are seeing is in significant economic distress. Alongside that, we see long-term housing that is not occupied, again, in significant distress. There is arrears of £400,000 across 234 homes that do not have single people, couples, families in across the borough. £120,000 of those arrears are in Simonside and Recondike. Well affordable, well connected homes. And then in my own ward, Biddick and All Saints, we have 3 sites of significant economic activity that are now closed. We have Landreth House, an asset that should be serving the extensive national service economy that we have, derelict. The Pickwick Arms, derelict for 15 years. And the new mill closed virtually the day we closed out voting through this plan in September. But yet in this plan, we also count out the old GP surgery next to the ambulance station on Bolden Lane. It's discounted for housing, but it's then also not marked for its continued use for as a site of employment. Might have misinterpreted how that's dressed up in the plan. But my point is that as a borough, we are in significant economic distress. And then we are then seeking to add more distress with sites like H8, taking away natural green space, mature trees, and 4 well-established, well-served businesses. That wasn't in the Reg 18 plan as well. And that slides in at Reg 19. And so what we are asked to do now is look to a local plan that has a lifespan of 4 years. Or we go to a local plan that has 2 years.
Councillor, 1 minute.
And so officers will be tasked with delivering a local plan for December 26, delivering on the new MPPF with an established grey belt. And that puts Biddick Hall and All Saints at a significant harm with some of the estimations of what might be considered grey belt. But currently in this local plan, there is not the connection to active travel, to the metro that my residents dearly need to connect them to jobs in Sunderland and South Tyneside and further into Gateshead and Newcastle.
Can you wind
up,
please?
I cannot support this plan.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, just to come back to the lead member there, when she first opened up, the healthcare. The healthcare is very, very important to everybody in this borough. It is important. Hospital. Can I get a hospital appointment now? Not at all. Not one bit. And this was all part of our Labour group. Not all years, but some years. With the path of excellence, 1, 2 and 3, closing my hospital down to take me to Sunderland. So there's the first part we've got to look at straight away. You should be looking at yourselves. Well, can I get a doctor's appointment? The dentist appointment. It is for the sewage works that's going on now. It's an absolute joke with the floods that we're getting now. And just to come back to Councillor Gibson, his motion for the ocean. His people are now swimming with human waste out there. What's it going to be like when the local plan does go through? No, it's an absolute joke. In the planning committee, as you mentioned before, 100%. But, and I do know this as a fact for the Bede ward and the Scotch Estate residents, that they took stuff to the local, well, was going through the planning, where they're pushing it to get the houses built on the Scotch Estate. As was heard Councillor Dean before, taking the green belt away. We had one little bit of green belt left around there, and you went and pushed it through to get it built on. And the houses you're building, you've got to look at now, but people are 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever they are, pensioners even. The main thing we need around here is bungalows. We've got no bungalows whatsoever for the pensioners or for younger people with disabilities. Not one bungalow is being built on the Scotch Estate. It's flats they're building on there. And we've got more problems with flats around there than anything else. So I will not be voting in favour of this local plan. And it's an absolute disgrace that it's had to come back here again. Thank you very much.
Councillor Clare, did you have your hand up? No. No, sorry. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take you back a few years when we went through COVID and the devastating effect it had on, I would imagine, everybody in this room and people in South Tyneside. And I think the clean green spaces brought great comfort to people because they were able to get out and about and walk through there. Myself included, I went through major surgery for lung cancer. And to be able to walk through those green spaces aided massively in my recovery. During that time, I lost a brother and a sister within 3 weeks of each other during COVID. And walking through those spaces, you are able to reflect on your memories of your childhood and memories of your family and the losses that were incurred through quite a number of people, no doubt a lot of people in here. And to take away those green spaces, I think would have a devastating effect on the memories that people have of the loved ones that we lost during that time. And my conscience would not allow me to vote in favour of a plan that would take those memories away. And I think everybody, not just physical problems that we had, but mental health problems that we all went through during this time of COVID. And I think those green spaces did bring a lot of comfort to us all. And it would be a travesty and the memory of all those that we lost. And my conscience wouldn't allow me to vote in favour of this local plan.
Councillor Owens-Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's perfectly clear in this chamber where the residents who are in the gallery stand on this motion and bringing this local plan back to the council chamber, which, as it hasn't been changed, does feel like a bit of a swizz. You know, why are you coming back? It's like we vote for Brexit. Oh, well, let's go back and have another vote just in case. We might be able to get more numbers on our side. I certainly think that the applause has been deafeningly silent for any of the comments that members on the other side of the chamber have made. And I think there are too many things for me to say about this, which have already been said, and I don't wish to waste people's time, considering I think that this whole meeting is a bit of a waste of time because I think it shouldn't have come back to this chamber, as was very eloquently put by other members. I agree with the issues on sewage. I think Northumbria Water are not telling the entire truth when they say that we have the capacity to manage new housing builds when so much sewage is being pumped out into the sea. We clearly don't have the capacity to process the waste that's currently being produced, never mind anything else, which may only get worse when climate change increases its effect and we get a lot more rain, a lot more storms, and we have other things to deal with. One of my concerns is about HMOs. I mean, we have a lot of HMOs there included in policy 16 of the local plan in front of us. I don't know how many of the members who've South Tyneside Council, probably most, but I don't know how many of the residents are aware that an HMO can be developed without actually having any planning permission at all. It's automatically approved for planning permission as long as the building inspectors agree. And when I was on the planning committee last year, we had applications of up to 10 rooms in an individual house, despite the protestations of neighbours living nearby who are in some distress about who may be moving in next door into what is a fairly quiet residential area. Thank you, I've got a minute. Really, we do want to engage. I can only speak for myself, and I feel a little hurt by some of the perceived attacks that I've had by members about the Stag Group as a whole.
Councillor,
I am an
1
independent.
minute, please.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. I'm an independent councillor. I'm part of a loose alliance of independents. We all speak for ourselves, and I really don't wish to be lumped into a group, particularly when I don't believe that my behaviour in this chamber has ever been anything other than perfectly acceptable. A last thing, we didn't like this the first time. We didn't like the local plan. There was too much wrong with it for us to want to vote for it, and it was voted down. It was not voted through. Nothing has changed. The only thing I hear from residents that they're even more concerned that it's been brought back. They still don't want it. We still don't want it. I'll be voting against it today.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor.
Colleagues, oh, sorry, Councillor Ford.
Madam Mayor, it was point of information.
Yes.
Just to let the councillors know, there is a commission going on about water companies and it is being documented. But hopefully South Tyneside will feed into that system. We have people like Bob Latimer, who has lots of information. You've got other people. We will feed that information in to that system. And can I just point of order on Joan? Yeah, it's fantastic, Joan, green spaces. You're quite right. That's why we've got 6 green flags in the borough. And it's thanks to all our friends groups we have working hard within the borough to establish that. But we do have some fantastic spaces. Plain pitch strategies is going ahead. We're working with Sport England, but also we're working with Durham FA. Thanks.
On the last information on that, please.
Councillor Robertson.
Point of information on what he just said, please.
Almost just said, and I think he went off.
What point of information on Councillor Gibson?
Aye.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson should only have been responding to my words and not Councillor Hamilton's. That was all. Thank you.
Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Gibson didn't make any reference whatsoever to people swimming in the human waste. Can you make reference to that, please? If any of this goes ahead.
Councillor, this is a clarifying, it's, yes. Yeah, that's not the piece of information. Right. Councillor Ford, if you will just indulge me, colleagues, I'm conscious that an extraordinary meeting can only go on for 2 hours. So unless the meeting agrees otherwise, when 2 hours have elapsed at 12 noon, the meeting will automatically end in accordance with Rule 28.4, unless we agree otherwise. Therefore, colleagues, can I move that the meeting of council continues beyond 2 hours in duration? Then that will allow us to close the debate. I'm sure there are only a few more members who wish to speak, and then take.
Can I propose we go to a vote?
Thank you.
Proposed and seconded.
Right, thank you.
to let your proposal take precedence. So you've asked if your proposal's seconded first.
Yes.
That will then dictate whether or not your proposal is necessary or not, councillor Robertson. So if you just let that happen first. that will
Right. So
provide-
is that motion seconded?
Second.
Thank you.
So is there any dissenting?
Is there any dissent voices about continuing beyond 12 o'clock?
Madam Mayor,
So there are. So you're going to have to do a show of hands, Madam Mayor. to
Right.
see if-
I think I've wasted enough time, Madam Mayor.
Can we?
Now having a vote.
Right.
And I'm sure people won't think it's a waste of time on such a big matter as this, so we might just. want to do the
Can we, yes, can we please have a vote on an extension of time? And it certainly is not a waste of time, councillor Brennan. Agreed, please?
All those in favour, Madam Mayor.
All those in favour of extending beyond 12 noon?
Councillor Robinson, can I just clarify, you are in favour of extending?
Yes, thank you.
Against, Madam Mayor.
Are there any against?
Just councillor Brennan. Right, okay. So it's passed in favour, we can
We can
go beyond the
extend.
2 hours so that you can
Thank you.
continue the debate.
Yes. Councillor Ford.
But councillor, sorry, Madam Mayor, can I just double check, because councillor Robertson wanted to move that it wasn't extended past the 2 hours, but is that now, if you voted in favour, is that now cancelled out? It's just a yes, just so. we're
I vote in favour of extending the meeting.
Thank you.
And then there's the other thing I said.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Ford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief. When this decision was, this version of the local plan was rejected back in September, we asked for a new start. We did meet with council leadership. We met with senior planning officers. We asked for the council to go back to the drawing board to change the plan, to create a plan that actually meets the needs of our borough. The council leadership and senior officers waited for the new NPPF to be published, which happened in December. But since then, the approach has been simply to tell councillors that we must vote for this current version. That was what happened at the training briefing session from the Planning Advisory Service, who are, yes, they are independent, they're part of the Local Government Association, but we were simply told, you have to vote for this version or you will be subject to the new NPPF and the new housing targets. So it was confirmed nothing has been changed in this local plan, and senior officers confirmed that nothing could be changed, not a word, because it would have had to go out to public consultation again, and there was no time for that under the new rules. And the reason we're in this situation, as has been said by many people, is yes, there was a Conservative government that pushed every council to not have to have a local plan rather than have any sensible regional planning. But from the beginning, there has been a choice by the Labour Cabinet and Group to base this plan on the highest possible housing projections and the highest possible economic growth projections, not based on reality of our actual population and not based on the economic distress that has been noted. So yes, over the many years, the plan has changed, and some sites were in that should never have been in and have been taken out again due to the diligent campaigning of many thousands of residents and to every point, every stage of consultation. But this plan has not ended up as being based firmly on evidence with strong, effective policies and one that protects our green belt and green spaces. What we need now is a fresh start with proper cooperation with all elected members to reassess the basis of the plan from the very beginning, to review all of the brownfield sites for both housing and employment land. We need to propose much higher housing densities in our town centres than are currently
1
in the
minute,
plan.
Councillor Ford.
There are council-owned car parks, for example, which could have apartments and then car parking underneath. There's a huge amount of office space due to be built on the Holborn Riverside site, which surely not needed now. So yes, the Labour government are imposing arbitrarily high housing targets on councils. We're challenging that. This council should be sternly challenging that. Right across the country, councils and communities are objecting to them. But this government are also promising to make it easier for councils to build social housing again. And given we need, according to the evidence, to build at least 361 affordable proper
Councillor, can you
social
wind up,
housing
please?
each year, that's what we must do. So this is a beginning. We need to work from tomorrow, from today, to actually get a new plan underway that will meet the needs of our current residents.
Can I propose we move
Anyone
progress?
wish to speak before Councillor Mellon closes the debate? I want to make sure everybody. Yes, Councillor Freed.
Yes, I'm seconding this motion. Thanks, Madam Mayor. This is probably the most important meeting I've ever been to in this council in 23 years. Today is about the future of South Tyneside and how we manage our area as democratically elected councillors. Now, I've heard many vociferous arguments and applause from the audience, but I've had one member in the Heaven South area approach me and say I'm not very happy about them building at Felgate and Hedworth. End of story. I'm representing Heaven, where we have had, as my colleague Councillor Porter, excuse me, Madam Mayor, obviously not brought up correctly with.
Can I ask the public gallery to remain silent, please?
Like my colleague Councillor Porthouse has stated, Heaven has, you know, had its numerous building sites on previously greenbelt land. For example, Mountain Village, where the three brothers, the farmers Lawsons, gave the land for building for Luke's Lane, which he didn't mention, but you know, Luke's Lane. We also have Maples 1 and Maples 2. Now we encourage that because it'll grow our economy. And, you know, Heaven is a very, very special place in my heart, but there we go. This other thing is very important to me, is the education of our children. So we're talking about land. Let's talk about where we're going to build our new schools. How many schools we're going to have? What's the future population going to look like? How many teachers have we got? Have we got the right amount of teaching? You know, that to me is the single most important facet of the plan, is the education of our children, because they're the future. Anyway, there was some talk about Northumbrian Water, and the woman I won't mention, who died on my birthday, she is the resultant of all this sewage into the rivers and seas, etc., is down to her selling our assets like British Telecom, you know, British Gas, etc., etc., etc. So I'm not going to go to that one. It's a problem which every local authority who's got a sea next to them is facing, or a river next to them is facing. It's not just South Tyneside Council. Where are we going to go in our future economy? Now, Councillor Carter mentioned the business park that we did in conjunction with Sunderland City Council, which is employing thousands of people. And that didn't come about because we didn't have a local plan. It was a plan. I'll come back to plans in a minute. So what's the businesses we're going to have in the future? Where are they? They're in the local plan. That's important. Very, very important. Without those new businesses, we're not going to survive. Our children are going to have the correct skills to get these jobs. So the movement of our world famous, and it is world famous, Marine Tech College to the centre of South Shields town centre didn't happen because nobody planned it. It's been planned. It's going to happen. And if you've been around the world a little bit like I have for work and things like that, people talk about South Shields Marine College when you mention you're from South Tyneside.
Councillor, you have 1 minute, please.
Okay, I'll wrap up. Adult social services. How do we carry this service forward? It's our greatest expenditure. Something as important as this requires planning as it moves forward. Plans can change due to extra legislation. We heard about the COVID pandemic. You know, if in extremis something happens, circumstances change, you've got to change your plan. So no alternative plan that I can see has been forwarded at the meeting. Do you want me to stop, Madam Mayor? No forward plan.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Continue, Councillor
Right.
McCabe. I think our councillors.
No forward plan has been put forward by the opposition. Just criticism and criticism of one facet of that.
Can you wind
And
up,
I-
councillor?
Yeah. There's 151,000 residents.
Councillor McCabe, can I ask you just to stop while we look after our
Yeah, well,
colleague?
that's why I.
Yes. Do we have a first aider, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart, get an actual, or Tom, picking somebody to get an actual on first aid.
Too much.
I didn't really put it in that role.
Yeah, it's in the, it's in the.
But it
Yeah.
just that it needs to also from the opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll try and run up Madam Mayor as
continue,
quick as I
please?
can. There's 151,000 residents in the borough. That's 72,000 households. We're not just talking about one little area. We've got to cater for those 72,000 households. And irrespective of the vote today, the consequences, if people vote against this plan, then that's in their behest. But I'll be reminding them constantly about their failure to look after their residents, the way that I hopefully and my ward colleagues look after their residents. So, you know, nobody gets a gold medal, nobody gets to into space and lands on the moon without a plan. We need this plan, and we need the plan now. Thank you.
Thank
Point
you.
of information, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor.
Point of information, please. Just on Councillor McCabe's there.
Yes.
Just to come back to Councillor McCabe there, I just don't know, it's just for myself this, and probably that people want to know, but when he's talking about the local plan, he's going to vote for it. Is a councillor that doesn't even live in the borough allowed to vote in this local plan? And does he actually care about the people? Thank you.
Councillor. Colleagues, I think it would be, I think we should break for 2 minutes to allow everyone to get back into the chamber, to have Councillor Mellings winding up and to take the vote. I think we'd just 2 minutes, councillor.
I think that would not look 2 minutes, yeah. 2 minutes, I just, is that all agreed?
Yeah.
It's just 2 minutes.
Is everyone in place now? We don't want to miss anyone out.
Give it a minute, and she's just, because when they're not, yeah, the debate rattled, and she's just gonna come in for the vote.
Right, if I can tell you colleagues that we're just giving our colleague another minute. She's not going to listen to the end of the debate or the close up, but she will be in to take the vote, if everyone's happy with that. Right, Councillor Milling, can I ask you to close the debate, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. People will be relieved to say, when I say that I'll be as brief as I can. We were asked what the difference was. Well, the difference isn't in the plan itself. I acknowledge that, although it's been tidied up with punctuation and spelling. I would say that as an ex-English teacher, wouldn't I? The difference is in the urgency created by the new National Planning Policy for, with its extra demands. The government was elected with a commitment to build 1.5 million houses. It was elected on that manifesto commitment, and so we now cannot complain when we're expected to contribute, excuse me, to that 1.5 million. Thank you for your concern. Thank you for your concern. I'm all right. We heard questions about the finance and resources of putting on this, as you thought, unnecessary meeting, but I would ask you to consider the finance and resources that would be required to start a new plan should we need to, having missed the deadline for this one. This is not my plan, and it's not Labour's plan. It's a plan demanded by the government of all colours and put together by a team of dedicated professionals in this building. And I would like to thank them once again for their efforts. The Greens took up the offer of a meeting of further explanation. The Independents did not. And we've had questions and comments here this morning that are irrelevant to this debate. So I'm not going to pick them up one at a time. Let's just say, let's keep our elderly in the communities they love with the facilities they deserve. Let's keep our young people here with job opportunities and houses they can afford. Let's keep our infrastructure and green spaces fit for the 21st century. Please move to the vote and consider the gravity of your decision this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, is it a procedural matter?
Is it a point of order or is it a point of information? So you need to.
Yes, you may.
Thank you very much. I heard you saying that they were voted in on the 1.5 million houses, whatever. They were also voted in saying that they would help the WASPy women not put up taxes and not punish the
Councillor
pensioners.
Robertson, sorry.
Councillor Brown, have you got a point of information or a point of?
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm on this side of the chamber, but I'm independent of the group. I might lean that way, but I'm independent of the group. And I did take on board that session and I did attend. And that's not the trip Councillor Melling up, but I actually went to that.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Right, colleagues. I'm going to ask now if colleagues authorise the formal submission. It will be in 4 parts. So I will now ask colleagues, does Borough Council authorise the formal submission of the publication draft South Tyneside local plan and its associated submission documentation to the Secretary of State pursuant to Section 20 of the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act 2004 and Regulation 22 of the Town and Country Planning, Local Planning, England, Regulation 2012. Is that agreed?
Not agreed.
Not agreed.
No.
Not agreed.
Right.
Named vote.
We have dissenting voices, therefore we will take a show of hands.
Named vote, please, Madam Mayor.
There has to be 5 members who wish for a name vote. Right, I will ask our monitoring officer to do the name vote.
Yes, she's in.
Can we just make sure everybody's mic is actually turned on for the named vote?
If I hear somebody, Councillor Oliver, I'll just.
It's the public that wants to
Yes.
actually hear.
Right.
It's the public that wants to hear clearly.
Yes.
There's many times this meeting. and
Councillor
votes
Oliver, if
happen.
you'd like to sit down,
Sorry,
we'll
yes, sorry.
continue.
Was that-
Thank
yeah.
you.
Elected members in charge of their own mic, so I suggest, as I was just about to say, put your mic on when I ask your name, but if
Oh,
you let
sorry.
us get to it, then
I
we're
do
going.
apologise. Was that a yes? then?
Seated.
Was that, I haven't heard.
If you put your own mic on, it's a yes. Right. So elected members, I'm going to call your name out and you need to say whether you're for, against or abstaining from the vote. And I would ask that you indicate clearly by turning your mic on and clearly saying yes, for, against or abstaining. Okay?
Councillor Oliver, please.
We just get on with the vote? Yeah? Right. Councillor Barclay.
For.
Councillor Brennan.
Against.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Carter. For. Councillor Clare.
For.
Councillor Coombs.
Against.
Councillor Curtis.
Against.
Councillor Davies.
Against.
Councillor Dawes.
For.
Councillor P. Dean.
For.
Councillor S. Dean.
For.
Councillor Dixon.
For.
Councillor Foggin.
Yes.
Councillor Ford.
Against.
Councillor Foreman. For. Councillor Francis.
Against.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Guy.
Against.
Councillor Ginn.
Against.
Councillor Hamilton.
Against.
Councillor Harrison.
Against.
Councillor Herbert.
Against.
Councillor Keegan.
For.
Councillor Kennedy.
Against.
Councillor Kilgour.
Against.
Councillor Lamont.
For.
Councillor K. Maxwell. For. Councillor N. Maxwell.
For.
Councillor McCabe.
For.
Councillor McHugh.
For.
Councillor McKeown.
Against.
Councillor Melling.
For.
Councillor Myers.
Against.
Councillor Oliver.
Against.
Councillor Owens Palmer. Councillor Porthouse.
For.
Councillor Potts.
For.
Councillor K. Sorry, can we just have quiet when we do the vote, please? Councillor K. Roberts.
Yes.
Councillor T. Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Robertson.
You're gonna lose your seats.
Councillor Robertson.
Sorry, I didn't know what switched on.
Are you for, against or abstaining?
Against, I didn't know what switched on.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Stonehouse.
Against.
Councillor Strike.
For.
Councillor J. Taylor.
For.
Councillor R. Taylor.
Against.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Traynor.
For.
Councillor Welsh.
For.
Councillor Wood.
Against.
Councillor Yeh.
Against.
Three, 4, and the 27 against. So therefore,
So it's fallen, so.
It's fallen.
So we don't do the other 3 parts.
Well, it seems pointless, but yeah, so we'll not be doing the other part. So it's 27 against 20.
Right. Colleagues, can I inform you that there were 23 for the local plan and 27 against?
Get it!
Can I remind our colleagues in the public gallery that there are no banners? Yes, you know, you're allowed to clap, but please, no banners. Thank you.
There's still one part of the vote. I don't think the second one's relevant.
Right, there were 4 parts to this, so I'm being told that it is.
I think the second part is still valid, could be. So I think you should still ask that question, but the other 2 aren't.
Right, the last 2 parts are not relevant. However, I'm being advised that the second part is still relevant. It could be. So to be absolutely correct today, can I read out the second part and we will vote on the second part as well, just to be totally correct. So does Borough Council authorise a request to the inspector appointed to hold the examination in public to recommend any modifications under section 27C of the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act 2004, which are necessary to satisfy the requirements of section 20 brackets 5A of the Act and make the local plan sound. Is that agreed?
Madam Mayor,
Against.
Madam Mayor, can we request a bit of a plain English explanation of that, because it certainly wasn't clear.
That's why you go to the training.
Shut up, you plonker. Tory boy. Tory boy.
Yes.
Rather.
So we'll give an explanation.
So just very, very briefly, obviously the plan hasn't been successful, but to make it sound, there might need to be a request of the inspector to have an examination in public, or there might be some work required to get it into that position, which is why that bit is relevant.
So, Councillor Brown?
No, I won't.
Madam Mayor, I'm not well versed in law, but it sounds like a tautology to myself. It's not necessarily a binary choice, but here we go. We had what we thought was a vote, and either way, it seems to be a dichotomy, and it seems to be a conclusion. Because if the majority voted against, and it smells like they voted against, and it looks like they voted against, they voted against. And so now with the second part, you know, I take more time now, the older I get, to assimilate this information. And if it's quasi-legal, I need more time. And all I would say is, in the limited way that I understand, this sounds tautological, which is a big word from Horsey Hill for me. In other words, it was no.
Thank you. Tory boy, will you explain it?
Excuse
We are
me,
training.
Councillor Robertson, please. Councillor Kennedy, will you let the Chief Executive explain, please?
So, thank you, Councillor Brown. Just to say, there are 2 separate questions here. One, so councillors agreed not to submit the draft local plan to the Secretary of State. That's definitive. That's concluded. The second question, however, asks something else, which is whether the council may authorise a request for examination in public by a public inspector in order to feasibly make that sound. Now, it's relevant because given the first issue, there will now be a judgment for the Secretary of State, as has been discussed by the Chamber on numerous occasions, as to what to do next. Now, it's possible, there's no precedent to this, so I understand, but it's possible that the Secretary of State could mandate an inspection in public, an examination in public by an inspector. So the view of the council may be relevant as we now work with the department to decide what they choose to do next. So in no way does it conflict with your first decision. It's a different question, which is, do you consent for this being examined in public? But
If I have
take the
clarification.
point. If members wish to vote in exactly the same way as in the first vote, that's in your gift. We're not asking anything else of you. Thank you.
Councillor Kennedy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I possibly move something else? We've been accused on this side of the room of not engaging. We didn't engage for a reason. we didn't really get the chance. This was something that was done with cabinet and everything else. You know, yes, you went out to public consultation. You got very little back. There was three well, for the size of the borough. You got very little back. Was it three?
Councillor Kennedy would
let's
be
finish, please,
consulted for 13 years.
Let's finish. There was a 3,000 signature petition that was ignored. I would suggest that it goes back to the drawing board totally, where we can get everybody involved and everybody has their input, and we do it in this room. We haven't done it in this room to start with. It's failed miserably. It's fell on its backside. And I would suggest that we get everybody on board, all parties involved, including the members of public. We might actually get somewhere with this. But actually going to Secretary of State, I don't agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for point of information. So just for point of information, that is what we're doing, Councillor Kennedy. It's going back to a Reg 18. That is the process. It will go back to a Reg 18 and then it'll progress from there, which is right back to basics, which is, but that is another question within the report. Unless we're mandated otherwise, because we may be mandated otherwise, Councillor Kennedy. We just don't know which way this is going to go now. So, you know, we had control, we don't have control, we've decided no. So we could be mandated to go another way, but if not, it would have to go back to a Reg 18. So just for clarity on that one, I hope that one's clear, that one up for you.
Councillor Ford's got a hand up, but we could just.
Councillor
see,
Ford.
yes, on-
Point of information, please, about what has just been said at the planning briefing and in any of the meetings with the senior planning officers, the possibility of central government taking this plan to an examination in public without this council's permission was never raised. We were told that the transitional arrangements that have been published as legislation by this government are that if this plan is not submitted by the 12th of March, we are into a different process where we have to come up with a new local plan based on the new MPPF by December 26. So I would argue that this vote is unnecessary. If Madam Mayor, you insist that it is carried out, I strongly urge that it is not.
And I'll second that.
Councillor Ford, thank you. But we will take the vote.
I've just seconded, Madam Mayor.
And we will take the vote.
I've
just
just
to be
seconded it.
absolutely clear, if you wish, Dawn. If it's up to you to vote.
I've
for
just
or
seconded
against,
what you
then
proposed.
Councillor Robertson,
Never
please.
mind. Honest.
I'm speaking, please. Then if it is up to you then to have your vote for or against, but just for clarity for this council, we will take the vote on this section.
It was proposed and I
Thank you.
seconded it, Madam Mayor, for God's sake. She proposed it and I seconded it not to have the vote.
Right? Right, so does the council agree to that part too?
Not agreed.
Right, so we need a vote.
Just be a show of hands.
Show of hands, please.
So, Councillor Robertson, there was a question asked and you just need to vote on that. It's not really the time to be able to put in another question that would then just negate this vote.
Yeah.
So you're just being asked to just say no to this if that's what your position is. It's fine, just keep cool. It's absolutely fine. Just say no.
Right.
No, and we'll have a name vote if we're forced to, but it was proposed and seconded.
Just let us do what you've asked for us to do, please. The mayor's called a vote. She was just asking for a show of hands for all those in favour for.
Section.
Well, if you've got 5 members supporting you, then you can have a name vote.
Right.
Fine, no problem at
Name
all.
vote. Right.
How that happened.
Right, name vote.
So, just to be clear again, elected members, I'll call your name, you put your microphone on and you say for, against or abstaining. Councillor Barclay.
For.
Councillor Brennan.
Against.
Councillor Brown. Councillor Carter. For. Councillor Clare.
For.
Councillor Coombs.
Against.
Councillor Curtis.
Against.
Councillor Davies.
Against.
Councillor Dawes.
For.
Councillor P. Dean.
4.
Councillor Esteem,
4.
Councillor Dixon. 4. Councillor Foggin. Yes. Councillor Ford.
Against.
Councillor Foreman. 4. Councillor Francis.
Against.
Councillor Gibson.
4.
Councillor Guy.
Against.
Councillor Ginn.
Against.
Councillor Hamilton.
Against.
Councillor Harrison.
Against.
Councillor Herbert.
Against.
Councillor Keegan.
4.
Councillor Kennedy.
Against.
Councillor Kilgour.
Against.
Councillor Lamont.
4.
Councillor K Maxwell. 4. Councillor N Maxwell.
4.
Councillor McCabe.
4.
Councillor McHugh. 4. Councillor McKeown.
Against.
Councillor Melling.
4.
Councillor Myers.
Against.
Councillor Oliver.
Against.
Councillor Owens Palmer. Councillor Porthouse.
4.
Councillor Potts.
4.
Councillor Robertson. Sorry, I just need to hear. Sorry, Councillor Potts.
4.
Councillor K Roberts.
Yes.
Councillor T Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Robertson.
Well done, councillor Kilgour.
Councillor Kilgour.
Against.
Sorry, Councillor Robertson. You said off the lots of things that it's hard to hear. Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Stonehouse.
Against.
Councillor Strike.
4.
Councillor J Taylor.
4.
Councillor R Taylor.
Against.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Traynor.
4.
Councillor Robertson. Please, can I just hear? Councillor Welsh.
4.
Councillor Wood.
Against.
Councillor Yeh.
Against.
That one's failed again.
Again,
But it's
23.
26 against 23. 4.
Colleagues, can I tell you that there were 23 for and 26 against, so section D did fail. Colleagues, councillor, please. Thank you, colleagues. That concludes the business of this extraordinary meeting of the Borough Council today. May I thank everyone, including